Everyone on TV keeps saying the economy is fine. So why do you and all your friends feel broke? We've got record stock markets, soft landing victory laps, and unemployment basically at party levels. At the same time, credit card delinquencies are spiking, auto loans are cracking, and real wages have basically done the mannequin challenge since 2019. So tonight we're asking, is the U.S. economy actually healthy, or are we just burning the furniture to keep the GDP numbers warm? Welcome back to the comment section with Thomas Paul. Let's talk about why the vibes are better than the fundamentals, and what that actually means for your job, your portfolio, and your sanity. All right, let's start with the official story, because on paper it sounds amazing. GDP? Still growing. Not crazy boom levels, but positive. That alone lets every politician stand up and say, see, no recession, you're welcome. Unemployment? Near cycle lows. On TV, this gets translated as, everyone who wants a job has one, so if you're struggling, that's kind of a you problem. Inflation? Down from the peak. They'll tell you, we beat inflation. It was 9, now it's around 3-ish. Mission accomplished. Don't worry about the small detail that prices went up and then they stayed there. Meanwhile, the main stock indexes are flirting with or hitting all-time highs. Your favorite talking head looks at that and goes, markets are forward-looking, baby. If the S&P is happy, the economy must be fine. And here's where things get interesting. This soft landing storyline is absolutely perfect for the people who run things. Politicians get to brag that they pulled off something central banks almost never do. Crushed inflation without wrecking the job market. CEOs get to say, yeah, margins are a little squeezed, but demand is solid. We're investing in AI. The future is bright. Don't you dare sell my stock. Wall Street gets the best of all worlds. Slowing inflation, the possibility of lower rates, still decent growth, and a public that has just enough FOMO left to keep buying every dip. And then you, sitting at home with a $600 car payment and a rent bill that looks like a mortgage, are told, the vibe session is over. Stop being dramatic. So if the macro dashboard looks great, why does everyday life still feel like a slow-motion squeeze? Let's pop the hood and look at the actual household reality. Take wages. Adjusted for inflation, real wages compared to 2019? For a lot of people, they're basically flat or barely up, especially in the middle of the income distribution. In some lower income brackets, they're still down. That means, yes, your paycheck number is bigger than it was in 2019, but so is the number on literally every bill you pay. Housing? Rents have outrun incomes in most major cities. Home prices relative to income are still at stupid levels. Even with mortgage rates coming off the highs, affordability is wrecked. You either rent forever and bleed slowly, or you buy and sign up for a 30-year relationship with your bank that costs more than your parents' entire existence. Childcare, healthcare, both have been rising faster than wages for years. So even if headline inflation cooled, the stuff you can't really cut, roof, kids, staying alive, never had its soft landing. It just went up and stayed up. But wait, it gets even wilder. To fill the gap between my paycheck and my life, Americans did what we always do. We whipped out the plastic. Credit card balances are at record highs in dollar terms. And more important than the total balances is what's happening at the edges. 90-plus day delinquencies are climbing, especially for younger and lower-income households. That's the we're not paying this back on time, or maybe at all bucket. Same story with auto loans. After years of insane car prices and longer, bigger loans, delinquencies are creeping higher. Subprime borrowers are getting hit first, because of course they are. On top of that, you've got buy now, pay later. Because nothing says strong consumer like breaking a $120 purchase into 4 easy payments because you're tapped out till next payday. BNPL has basically become a pressure valve. It smooths the pain enough that spending doesn't immediately crash, which makes the data look okay, which lets everyone say, see, the consumer is resilient. But it also hides stress until it shows up like, oh, half my paycheck is now going to Klarna and Afterpay. This is how you end up with a weird reality where consumption is still holding up, but it's being propped up by more leverage and more creative ways to avoid admitting you're broke. So households are stretched. How about corporations? They must be swimming in cash, right? Kind of, but not evenly. At the top, you've got mega-cap beasts with insane profit margins, tons of cash, and the ability to raise money cheaply whenever they want. Life is good in tech palace land, but zoom out. In a lot of sectors, earnings margins have been getting squeezed. Input costs rose, wages rose, Interest expenses are rising as old cheap debt matures and has to be refinanced at higher rates. For years, companies gorged on debt at basically zero interest. That era is over. Every time an old bond rolls off and gets replaced with a more expensive one, a little slice of future profit dies. And then there are the zombies, companies that could only survive when money was free. They couldn't really cover their interest from actual profits. They just kept refinancing and praying for growth. Now they're facing higher rates, tighter lending standards, and lenders who've suddenly rediscovered the concept of risk. Some of these zombies get quietly restructured, sold for parts, or just disappear. Small businesses feel this even harder. Credit standards on small business lending have tightened. Banks look at the economy and go, "Yeah, about that line of credit, let's not." Or, "Sure, we'll renew it at a much higher rate." Commercial real estate? Office buildings are still under pressure, especially in cities where remote work drained demand. Refinancing those properties is not fun. Soft landing doesn't magically refill empty Class B office towers. The key point, all of this, margin pressure, higher interest costs, zombie stress, tighter credit, can coexist with low unemployment until some combination of cost-cutting and weaker demand pushes companies to start cutting headcount more aggressively. You don't feel the economic turn until people start losing jobs. But by the time jobless claims spike, the underlying cracks have usually been there for a while. Now you might say, if things are this shaky under the surface, why are markets still partying? Because markets have their own warped logic. Right now, we're in this weird bad news is good news world. When growth data softens or unemployment ticks up a bit, markets often rally. Why? Because slower growth means the Fed might cut rates sooner or faster. Traders basically have a Pavlovian response. Any whiff of weakness? Rate cuts, liquidity, pump it. At the same time, overall financial conditions can actually ease. Stocks up, credit spreads tighter, the dollar weaker, even as parts of the real economy struggle. Wall Street gets cheaper money and higher asset prices, while Main Street gets higher card APRs and "we're not hiring right now" emails. And the index story is even more distorted. A handful of mega-cap tech names have absolutely ripped. AI hype, cloud profits, advertising rebounds, you know the drill. Those few giants have such a large weight in the major indexes that when they go up, the whole index looks healthy, even if smaller caps and economically sensitive sectors are coughing up blood. Market breadth, the number of stocks actually participating in the rally, has been way narrower than the cheerleading would make you think. Underneath the big shiny names, plenty of stocks are flat or down, especially in sectors tied to the real economy. Small caps, regional banks, a lot of cyclicals. So your TV host points at the index and says, "Look at this line go up, everything is fine." While half the market is like, "Actually, we're dying over here." Let's zoom in one layer closer. White-collar workers. A lot of you watching are here. On paper, unemployment is low. But if you work in tech, media, finance, consulting, basically corporate laptop land, you've noticed the vibe shift. We're seeing rolling layoffs, not necessarily 2008-style explosions, but these constant waves. 3% here, 5% there, restructurings, realignments, focusing on core initiatives. Even if you survived the cuts, you probably got the other special, the do more with less memo. Same targets, fewer teammates. Congratulations, you've been promoted to 3 jobs for the price of 1. Hiring freezes are another invisible pressure. Open roles quietly disappear. Backfills take forever. Teams are told, "We'll revisit headcount next quarter," every quarter. And layered on top of all this is the AI narrative. If you caught our GPT 5.2 episodes, you know what's coming. AI as the CFO's favorite toy. It's not just about cool demos, it's about boards looking at line items and asking, do we really need 40 analysts doing what this model can do overnight? So you get this dark combo. Cost pressure from higher rates and squeezed margins, plus AI as a justification to reshape the workforce without saying, "We're replacing you with a model." None of this shows up clearly in headline unemployment yet, because the people getting hit are often mid-career white-collar folks who got severance, do consulting, or bounce between gigs. They're invisible in the data longer than someone getting laid off from a factory. But at the human level, the story is stress, uncertainty, and a sense that you're one budget meeting away from your job getting reprioritized. So where does this all go? Let's talk scenarios. Base case that a lot of smart, sober people lean toward. Some version of a softish landing or mild recession. Growth slows, unemployment drifts up, some weaker companies and over-leveraged households get hurt. but the system holds. Think of it as an extended hangover, not a full organ failure. Next scenario, a more standard recession if credit really tightens. This would look like consumer delinquencies keep climbing, banks pull back more aggressively on lending, small businesses cut staff, and unemployment moves up faster. Housing volumes stay low, prices soften more broadly, and suddenly the resilient consumer isn't so resilient. The uglier tail risk is something actually breaks, a major credit event, a bigger meltdown in commercial real estate that hits regional banks hard, or a spike in unemployment that kills consumer spending quickly. None of these are guaranteed, and anyone who tells you they know the exact timing is lying or selling you something. The economy is too complex. But the direction of pressure is pretty clear. Households are stretched. Cheap money era is over. Corporate margins are under pressure. And the financial system is allergic to high-for-long interest rates. In other words, the burden of proof is on everything's fine, not things might crack. So what do you do with all this if you're a normal person trying not to go insane? First, this is not financial advice. I'm not your advisor. Don't sue an AI avatar. But conceptually, don't YOLO your life decisions off of vibes. If every headline says, economy strong, soft landing secured, and your actual bank account says, you're one emergency away from panic, trust your bank account. Be very aware of your own leverage. Credit card balances, personal loans, auto loans, BNPL, these are all future stress imported into the present. When the economy is wobbly under the surface, high-interest debt is like walking around with gasoline in your backpack. Also, know the risk profile of your job and industry. If you're in a sector where companies are bragging about AI productivity and right-sizing, that's not just marketing. That's a warning label. On the investing side, remember that indexes are not the economy. A handful of megacaps ripping doesn't mean every business in your town is thriving. And an index at all-time highs doesn't mean it can't go down a lot, while your paycheck and debt don't budge. Most importantly, when you hear someone say, the economy is fine, ask, fine for who? For the politician running for re-election? For the CEO whose comp is tied to the stock price? For the fund manager who gets paid on assets under management? A lot of economic storytelling is just sales pitches with macro charts. So let's pull it together. At the top level, the dashboard looks great. Growth positive, jobs strong, inflation down from the peak, markets near highs. At the kitchen table level, it's a different picture. Prices up and sticky, real wages may, housing unaffordable, childcare and healthcare brutal, credit card balances and delinquencies rising, and a quiet white-collar squeeze powered by cost-cutting and AI. Both can be true at the same time, for a while. We are living through an economy where we can keep the headlines pretty by leaning on debt, hidden stress, and a lot of, don't worry, the models say it's fine. The question is how long that gap can last before something gives, jobs, credit, housing, or all three. So I'll end where we started. Everyone on TV says the economy is fine. Do you buy that based on your actual life? I want to hear from you. Drop a comment with your own situation. Has your income kept up with your costs since 2019? Are you feeling stable, stretched, or one bad quarter away from panic mode? And if you invest, does your portfolio feel way better than your day-to-day life? I'm going to read through the comments and pick one pressure point, auto loans, housing, or white-collar layoffs, to deep dive in a follow-up episode. So tell me what's hitting you and your friends the hardest right now. If you got value out of this, hit like so YouTube knows the economy is not, in fact, fine. And subscribe to the comment section with Thomas Paul for more skeptical breakdowns of the stuff everyone else is just cheerleading. Thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves, and remember, when someone tells you everything is great, always check who signed their paycheck.